abomination of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
And the difficulty which we have is to create a consensus in a very empowered world. And that's what we stand for the process to integrate people and to create such a consensus.
If you have been living without having a vaccination, it's time for a change. If you wish to live life as normally as possible, with the ease to do the things that you love, you must be vaccinated in the city of Chicago starting January 3rd. This health order may pose an inconvenience to the unvaccinated, and in fact is inconvenient by design.
So you're saying the city of Chicago has no funds in its account?
At this time, in this account, no.
So I can't cash my paycheck?
Well, not here, because we have their account. We can actually see their account. If you go to another bank, they're not going to be able to see that. So if you go to your bank, they might be able to do it there.
Above all, wanking fucking bankers. Wanking bankers. We had these arseholes that for the last 20, 30 years are getting these massive bonuses, these employees and directors of banks, on the misfortune of the working class. You know, if you and all these arseholes should be thrown in jail and the keys thrown away for the rest of their life. Who's going to pay for it? The working man. We got the labourer, the small farmer, the fisherman, the nurse, the teacher, the policeman, the fireman, the plumber, the carpenter. Fuck's sake, man, this is a joke.
Welcome to Toxic Airwaves. Had to end that intro with a Christmas tree of S9s because I felt like that was the only appropriate way to do it. But yeah, Chicago sucks. I'm probably never going to go there again. And yeah, one of the topics that we're going to talk about tonight is how we just need to stop acting like COVID matters anymore, and the the state influence matters anymore, because the state doesn't determine whether we're free or not. Yeah, that's a big message, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more next week. We have Shane from the Vanu podcast coming on. I'm really stoked on that. That's one of his big themes. He's great anarchist, great agorist, building out really cool network of people doing cool things to eliminate the state's coercion in their lives. I'm pretty stoked to have him on, and I love listening to his podcast. But yeah, Skeef, you ready over there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing audio through Spaces. I think that probably works the best. Does it sound okay?
Yeah, it's a little bit quiet, but...
Okay. Oh, wait, my headphones. Now my headphones are plugged in. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
They were not plugged in before. They work better when they're plugged in.
Yeah. Oh, we got Lurk in here, and somebody typing gibberish I don't understand. VUM dot ONG. I don't know what that means. But, alrighty. Well, hope everybody had a good Christmas and didn't let the state impact them. I know I did. You there, Skeef?
Yes. Oh, shoot. Yeah, okay. I was trying to do Zoom in. Okay, I'm good now.
Cool.
I did have a good Christmas. The older kid got a gun, the younger kid got a Linux computer, so everybody's happy.
Yeah. Lurk's missing your cutoff. He feels betrayed.
I'm trying to sit outside if it'll work. So it's a little bit chilly out here in the winter of only about 60 degrees or 50 or whatever it is.
Yeah. We got our fireplace, or like we have a big fire pit that we set up. So we've been enjoying bonfires out there. And that's been great. Why do you have a shitcoiner as your like Zoom fill-in?
That's a good question. I said it as McAfee. I don't know, probably over a year ago as a joke, and have never changed it. I put it as that for Dirtbag Friday for one of them. I don't even remember exactly why, but then I should change it to somebody who's not terrible.
Yeah, McAfee's an interesting guy, though. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
His magical poop swing in Belize. Teach their own. So, but yeah, he's a career scammer. R.I.P.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, yeah, we need to stop thinking and talking about COVID. So the mayor just put in a mask mandate for Pima County, or the county voted to have one, and nobody's following it.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Nobody's following it.
Yeah.
And that's
I haven't.
That's the proper attitude to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and
Oh, go ahead.
It's just so wild to encounter people that still think it's real. It just doesn't. I don't know. I mean, it's like finding somebody who, I don't know. I don't even know what crazy theory would be close to that, but it's very, like, I had a friend recently. They're trying to get together for New Year's, and there's one person in the family who's just been total lunatic. Like, she has a kid who's probably 4 or something like that, and the mom's just a complete psycho, and so the kid literally hasn't had human interaction for the last 2 years, and they they're hand sanitizing all the time. Blah, blah, on the kid's 5th birthday, they're planning to get, and I shouldn't even say friends. This person's like somebody I know through family. Like, it's not anybody I ever spend time with, but like the kid's 5th birthday, they've already got it planned. They're going to go take him to get the vaccine, and it's like she is the one person in the whole family that got COVID and couldn't travel for the New Year's thing, and it's just, I don't know if that's karma or what, but I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how people still take this serious. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, people are just so trapped in it, and the sooner we put it behind us, I mean, they can do all that stuff, and it just comes down to is like, just like we have freedom of association, and it's unfortunate that some people, we have to disconnect from, because they're just so trapped in the matrix, and people get sick. It's a thing, and fortunately at this point, like, we know for the most part how to treat it, and stop living in fear. And I mean, but what it comes down to at the end of the day is, like, this mandate's hilarious in Pima County. So the governor made it illegal to do mask mandates, and so they announced that they're placing a mask mandate, but they can't enforce it. And so it's just a ceremonial thing. And, that's really, that's pretty much every law that's put into place. If people don't follow it, that's the most that they can do, is just say it's a law. And I think the more we have that attitude, I mean, it's just like, you think of, like, the state enforcers there's only so many of them, and they're not everywhere at the same time, and so you think, like, there's a lot of jurisdictions out there where it's illegal to, smoke and possess weed, and, everybody still does it. And so You know, that's just like a great example. Like if you want to be free, it's not up to the state to determine, what your rights are and, what you can and can't do. It's on you as an individual to make decisions. And sometimes that means like, you sacrifice things, in order to have freedom. It doesn't mean that, everybody's going to be accepting of it and every place is going to be accepting of it. And I think that's something that's important. But yeah. AK-47 says, yikes, I wonder how much people's mental health plays into their poor physical health. Something I've been thinking about with my patients. Yeah. No, that's a huge thing.
Well, and it's a long incremental process that can be really hard and might never end. And that, I don't know, that can be a little bit disconcerting, but it just kind of, it is what it is. I mean, it's like I don't know. It's like we have to, keep taking new steps day after day to, I don't know, to insulate ourselves from all this. And that's why I like the school board example so much as a model for, how we interact with the state is, just for those that haven't heard it, it's just the basic idea is that, I have kids, my kids are homeschooled. I personally have absolutely no idea what my local school board is up to. I don't know if they're doing critical race theory. I don't know what they're up to. And I don't care. I don't have any reason to care because my kids don't go there to get abused. They stay home and that's where they learn and grow and all that. And it just doesn't matter to, to any part of my life what my local school board is doing because I've, taken the steps to be protected from that. And so, that model, I think we can apply to so many different aspects of our life. It's kind of hard to apply that to the federal government so far, but I think we're making a lot of good progress.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's good. And I think like one of the things that makes sense is moving out of the cities because they're just open air prisons, for the most part.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm never going to Chicago again. I grew up in that area and it's just such an awful, awful place, and they implement, it's just, why would you go places that hate you, ultimately? And like, I can guarantee that rural Illinois is way different than Chicago and is a much better place to live, as is, rural Wisconsin, which is, really close to Chicago. And I think that's the, ultimately the answer in a lot of regards is just, it's a whole different situation. But, yeah, one of the topics that we had that you wanted to talk about was why are Bitcoiners giving so much energy and attention to statists?
Yeah, I don't get it. It's like most recently, it was this Lowry guy, and it's like he's the easiest example because I listened to him because I honestly haven't been paying attention to him at all. But he went on Jimmy's Song, and I respect the hell out of Jimmy's Song and really like him. And so I listened to his episode on Jimmy's Song, and it was fine. It was Jimmy did a really good job. It was a good episode. But that guy just doesn't have a worthwhile perspective. He's not, in my opinion, he's not intelligent in any meaningful way. He's obviously, smart because he's at MIT or whatever. And I'm sure he's better at math than I am. But these people just don't have a meaningful form of intelligence that lets them effectively interact with reality. And that's what's so confusing to me. Is like people are like, oh, he said this. He said transaction fees are taxes. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That makes no sense at all. And then it's like you hear him elaborate, and it's like it's like listening to a bunch of Sam Harris episodes or something like that. Like, if you listen to just a little bit, he can sound reasonably intelligent, whatever. Like him, there's some other people, Eric Weinstein's another one, but it's like you get him to dig into stuff, and you're like, oh, this person doesn't understand how any of this works. Like, and so, which is an interesting thing. But then the question is, so why are so many Bitcoiners paying attention to them? Why are they quote tweeting him? Why are people responding to his arguments as if they're legitimate? Like, why are people treating this individual as something other than, a kind of strange little moron that has some dumb stuff to say? That's what I don't I don't really understand.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, we need to start using some of Ephesians' tactics that he was talking about on Bitcoin Kindergarten with that guy.
Yeah, I'm not on board with telling people to commit suicide, but a lot of the rest of it I am on board with.
Yeah. I mean, these people.
And maybe in Ephesians, tell me why I'm wrong. I see you're in the spaces, so feel free to tell me why I'm wrong on not being on board with that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not responding to the request.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you co-host.
Okay.
So you can help me with this. But yeah, I mean, these people just don't understand that, taxation is theft, and it's, inherently violent and coercive, and that's different than voluntarily sending a transaction and, entering into a market. I mean, that's like arguing that buying anything at a store is somehow a tax given to the like the expenses that are baked into the cost of the good is a tax, and it's really dumb.
And I think we need to, like, rather than and this, and I was thinking about too this afternoon, like what's the constructive rather than just, hey, Jason Lowry's stupid, quit retweeting him, all that kind of, like the constructive kind of counter whatever that I was thinking of this afternoon is basically, it's like we can focus on the core fundamental questions that matter. Coercion is one of them. If a worldview requires coercion to function, its power and influence is going to trend to zero as Bitcoin trends to infinity. And to me, that's just an observable fact. And so people can get all kinds of complicated. He can have all these, foreign policy theories, blah, 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 all these historical examples. And it's like, no, like, cut the bullshit. Coercion or no coercion? That's the question. Like, and I think really hammering, and not just him, but like different discussions with statists or whatever, like bringing it back to the fundamental yes or no questions, I think is super important, rather than getting into these big, giant, long, drawn out things about, whether or not Bitcoin mining fees are taxes, and, pretending like that's not completely retarded.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's this guy named Uncover Tucson that I went after pretty hard this week for that reason, because he's got that conservative attitude about things. And yeah, that's, the route I took is like, his argument is like, he wants to fund the police in order to have like law and order. And, that argument is being put forth by a lot of conservatives right now. Like, I like to listen to conservative radio because I find it very entertaining. It's very stupid and very entertaining. But they were talking about, like, how awful it was that Kim Potter, was charged with whatever she was charged. I think it was manslaughter, but I'm not 100% sure. And, like, how that's going to break down law and order because the police don't have special privilege. And it's like, no, the thing people don't understand is, like, part of the reason why you're seeing crime and violence right now is because they inflated the money supply and destroyed, people's ability to create income. Like, people don't go out and just like rob each other and, destroy their communities, unless there's circumstances creating, the reason to do that. Like, there's just people, will always naturally enter in the market and create things of value before they go out and destroy things of value. And, the state ultimately functions solely on destroying value, and it incentivizes, this lawlessness and criminal activity because it is a lawless and criminal entity. And, to argue like we need to fund the police and, do this stuff as a solution to, what's happening in San Francisco or even in Tucson with like the murder rate going up is just absolutely insane, because these people are just arguing for their own imprisonment. Essentially, it's like, you want stability, you should be arguing to defund the police, and you should also be arguing to, defund the state and completely eliminate it, because until that happens, you're not going to achieve stability. They're trying to control demolition, everything. And good to have you in here, Hobo, and fuck everybody over.
You got him. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to approve it.
But yeah, I mean, we've got like a lot of status on Bitcoin Twitter, and I don't think you really understand Bitcoin if you're a statist.
Yeah, well, and it's what we've talked about too. Is it's like just the idea of of thinking that of an important path forward is for us to lobby and solicit these politicians and get them to put nice words on paper about Bitcoin and get them to say nice things about Bitcoin and space it like that. The argument I've always made with that is, people will be like, oh yeah, well, Steve, you hate that because you're just a philosophical ANCAP and you don't like politicians. And it's like, well, yes, definitely. I do hate them, 100% of them. But it's like the other side of it too. I just think it's such garbage strategy because it fundamentally misunderstands the power dynamic between the state and Bitcoin. And that it's, like a point I've made on here before is that it's like, if I, had the misfortune of talking to a politician, what I would say to them is, there's a tsunami of change coming. It's going to obsolete your entire worldview and everything you know. And you have an opportunity today that's a pretty cool opportunity, which is to get on your knees and beg for like protection and beg for like really bad things not happening to you in sometime this decade, and to do whatever you can to get the state out of the way of Bitcoin. We don't need support. We don't need, you to legalize this, legalize that. We just need you out of the way as much as possible. And it's like you have an opportunity to make a good decision and you have an opportunity to make a bad decision. And at the end of the day, I don't really give a fuck which one you choose. It doesn't matter to me at all. Like, I'm just telling you how to protect your own neck, literally and figuratively. And it's like this whole, like, it's just disgusting to me to see like these, I don't know, like all this stuff for lobbying, or like for somebody with a straight face to say some pleb should donate to a politician instead of sacking staff. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's criminally incompetent, if it's not malicious. And it's just, it's super annoying.
Yeah. It's not only misunderstanding the power dynamics, but it's also misunderstanding the incentives. And,
yeah.
The brilliant thing about Donald Trump is he, came out and talked about how he doesn't like Bitcoin and shitcoins this week or last week. And he said a bunch of other stupid shit, about vax and whatever. And that's just like a great voting in conservatives is not going to make things better. Not in the slightest. And, trying to get Bitcoins in positions of power, like they don't understand that, we don't live in this Republican democracy that people think we do. Like, it's completely sold out and controlled by people behind the scenes. And even if we did, it wouldn't be much beneficial. And I think at the end of the day, like, it comes back to this, people just really have low opinions of themselves and don't understand, the possibilities of the things that they can do. And they turn to this hero worship of like, I need somebody else in a higher position of authority to, one, direct me on where I'm going, and then two, to ultimately make my life better and make decisions for me. I just need the right person, to stand there instead of, I need to, take the steps I can to protect myself and my family. So.
Well, and so many people think I'm like joking or doing shock value when I say they literally don't have a mind. And I'm not at all. I'm 100% serious, because it's like there's a huge percent of the population. My best guess is like somewhere in the ballpark of 75%. It's for sure over half that literally does not have a mind. Like, literally doesn't have the capacity to interact with reality.
Lemmings.
Exactly. Like, either unwilling or incapable. I'm totally agnostic on that debate. And like they don't have anything to contribute. And I lump, status, I lump into that argument. Like people with such a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of reality and the state of the world. It's like, this is not somebody with a mind who can observe reality, critically evaluate it, and then respond accordingly. And so I just, as much as possible, I try to just avoid that. I've got that pinned tweet that I reference sometimes, but just like treating them like dogs. And I don't know. I think that's the appropriate way. And so it's like, I'm constantly seeing all this stuff about, can you believe what this one said, that one said, can you believe this happened, that? It's like, yeah. Like, can you believe an alcoholic went to a bar? Same question. Of course, it's what they do. It's in their nature. These things happen. But Ephesians or Hobo, you got anything for us? Anything we're wrong about? That'd be ideal.
What's up, guys? What's up?
What's up?
All right, cool. No, you guys are. Skeeth, you said that I just to clarify, I don't tell people to kill themselves. I just want to mock them relentlessly. So if they are the type of person who would kill themselves, that they would do it. It's kind of my position. But I don't tell people to kill themselves. But like my position is that like these people would stuff us into gulags if they had the opportunity. So if they're the type of person who would kill themselves, I'm of the opinion that we should expedite that process by making fun of them and seeing if we could trigger them.
I gotcha. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd probably go with that, especially if they're the hell yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
The type of person who gladly take your children from you at gunpoint are the type of people that like I will if I can figure out something that like triggers them like tremendously. I'm gonna dig in with that as much as possible and rub salt in the wound. I think that's a moral way to go about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Speaking of which,
no, I agree too. I mean, anyone trying to take your corn away and give it to them without even giving you anything in return besides fucking you in the ass, like, no, thank you.
Yeah, because I mean, their intentions are violent. You know what I mean? It's not like they plan on peacefully taking our Bitcoin and our children away from us, right? Like, no, they plan on using guns. So, like, if we can expedite that by, getting a handful of them to off themselves before the battle even starts, I think that's probably a net positive. And, you got to break some eggs to make some omelets because I guess in war people make omelets, but, it's just the way it goes.
And I think it's like a lot of people are not anybody here, but a lot of people in general are delusional about what, communism in the U.S. is going to look like. Like they're waiting for Joseph Stalin 2.0 to come out in the military uniform. And it's like, no, motherfucker, it's Amazon. It's McDonald's. It's like all these companies that are, co-opted by the state. And it's like today that they're not full on communist, but it's like, it's the classic incremental, last week on kindergarten, Ephesians, you brought up Wills for Radical. Like that's a book everybody needs to read. Make sure you find the free PDF so you don't give that fucker or his family any money. But it's just like, there's just a lot of people that are totally delusional and they're expecting, some like 1950s version of communism to take over. And it's like, no, it's ESG. And it's all of this nonsense that they're putting in, and it's incremental, and it's one change at a time. And the vast majority of the population, like I was saying earlier, just literally doesn't have a mind, doesn't have the ability to respond to that in any way. Like I honestly don't even have ill feelings towards a lot of these people. Like to me, that would be like expecting a dog to understand astrophysics or something like that. It's just a completely unrealistic expectation. And it's like, I think these are just people that need to be managed around and, disregarded as much as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like really thinking through what does communism this decade look like, because it doesn't look like the Soviet Union. It doesn't look like North Vietnam. I think that's an important thing to think about.
Now, the way the communism works is like they want us to own nothing. They want us to be entirely dependent on the state, dependent on, whatever their bullshit is. that they feed us their CBDCs. They want us to not own property like houses, cars. They hate the idea that we can travel freely. And there's a big transhumanism aspect of it, is they want us to be plugged into, Meta or, whatever, content to have nothing and just be entirely dependent on them and just, exist as consumers and, people to be leached off of. It's the same exact concept of the Matrix, where they just want us to plug us into these pods essentially and harness our energy. It's just, slightly different. And that's kind of, how I see the communism. It's different than, what you're talking about in Germany. And the Gulag, I think, doesn't necessarily exist as much of like throwing us in camps as it does is just locking us out of society as much as they can and making things as painful as possible. And it's like that, clip I played in the beginning of Lori Lightfoot, talking about like, this is intentionally difficult. Like, we're trying to make things intentionally as difficult as possible for you to exist as a human being until you comply into the system. And I think that's, ultimately what it looks like. And it's like, you take steps, to be sovereign outside of that. And kind of segueing into, so I haven't looked too much into it, but AK-47's asking about Level Bank, LVL Bank, that apparently Laser Hodl's shilling.
Yeah, I haven't looked into them too much yet. I don't know. My initial read on them was, I'm trying to get rid of my bank, not make it Bitcoin friendly. And so I wasn't, like, as far as traditional banks go, I have one I've been with for well over a decade. In that time, I haven't been charged a single fee. Like, they treat me well. I call in. I've never waited on hold one. It's like, I've got, as far as banks go, I've got a relatively good arrangement going, and have for over a decade. And so that was kind of my initial thing. I didn't see the real big upside. And I know a lot of people do, because a lot of people, they want Bitcoin services from their bank. I think that's stupid, but whatever. It's not my business. Somebody else does. But yeah, so I wasn't terribly impressed with them. I think, like a lot of the stuff people are looking to use them for, I'm going to use Fold's credit products for that. Like, I just, I don't know, think that they're structured a lot better, and also I eat my own dog food. So yeah, that was my initial, but I haven't like set up an account with them or like done a bunch of in-depth research on them.
Yeah. Are they one of the services where you load a debit card with Bitcoin and it like converts it as you spend?
They don't have that. I'm sure they're.
So they have like looks like a BlockFi feature where you earn interest, buy and sell without fees. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that interested in it personally. Yeah, I kind of have the same attitude. I'm just moving in the direction where like I feel like this is. Sorry, what were you saying? No. Well,
it wasn't me.
That was Ephesians, or now called Fed Lord.
Sorry, that was my roommate. I accidentally just hit the on button by accident on the mic.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to get off the grid more and more.
Yeah, I've got like 3 to 5 ACH withdrawals a month that are what is still keeping me with the bank. That I just haven't figured out a way to get around that just yet. So once I figure that out, I won't even have a bank.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into it more. Zorn's on the chat. Welcome, Zorn. But yeah. This transhumanism stuff's pretty creepy. I don't know how deeply you've looked into it.
Actually, quite a bit. I used to be obsessed with that Yuval Noah Harari guy. Initially, because I thought he was worthwhile, and then because I realized he was like the face of all this evil satanic bullshit. So like I read his Sapiens book, and then he had another one called Homo Deus. which is basic. Like Sapiens is essentially the New World Order, WF, interpretation of evolution to now. And then Homo Deus is essentially the WEF, New World Order expectation of what does human evolution look like from here on. And it's, I don't know, it's pretty fucked. But it's just like Rules for Radicals. It's an interesting one to read to kind of get inside their plans and understand a little bit more about what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But I like what Hobo put in the nest.
Yeah, that was good.
That tweet.
You want to read it?
Sure, yeah. It says, I pledge allegiance to the corporatical country of America and to the company, one product for which it stands, divisible by infinity and fiat for all. Get wrecked. Yeah.
Corporocratical.
Corporocratical. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think a lot of people, not Bitcoiners necessarily, but a lot of people are really sleeping on how nefarious moving everyone onto these subscription plans is. Because it's like like we know, you live in the pod, you'll own nothing. But it's like they want your immune system on a subscription plan. They want all your food, everything on like nothing that you actually own on a subscription plan. So that then once they get control of your finances, you're just fucked. You just dance little puppet, do whatever they want. And that it's like these things like Netflix didn't develop, just as a good business
it's
model.
crazy.
Like,
I think of like crack cocaine from the CIA back in the day, and they saw how like much power and influence they could have over these like communities, and they're like, let's take it to another level.
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
I think what's happening in the car markets is intentional, and I don't
with
think
the chips too, though. You think?
Yeah, with all of it, I think they don't want people individually owning cars, and this is something that you've seen more and more of young people, living in cities like LA or New York or wherever, and not owning a car, not learning to drive. Michael Malice is a good example of this. Because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be incredibly difficult for people for them to, supervise people's interstate travel or even international travel if they're leaving with vehicles, but they can, very easily control people with air travel. And this is something, Fauci's talking about with vax mandates for planes. And I think, the gas is going to be part of it. That's going to increasingly get more expensive. I think that's intentional. And it's part of the demolition. It's just attacking people's sovereignty, and they'll have these, platforms like Uber and Lyft that people will be dependent on. There'll be other ride shares in the future, kind of like Tesla's, working on doing with automated cars. And they'll be able to lock you out of the system if you don't comply to whatever their standards are. It's just so easy to incorporate some sort of social credit score with it. So, if you can get your hands on a good car, this is the reason why you don't buy American-made cars, because they're pieces of shit and fall apart. You want a car that can handle the next 10 years without a tremendous amount of maintenance. And, I think preferably analog. Because you look at what they incorporated in that last infrastructure bill with the plans to like monitor whether you're drunk or not when you get in the car, and there's just so many things that you can do with that. They want to install cameras in your car to monitor you, and it's just, I don't know, it freaks me out. But yeah,
my favorite is now
with
when
the
you
car
get your
plate,
insurance. When you get your insurance done, they're like, do you want to have the app so that we follow your every movement, and then you'll save $10?
Yeah.
I've got a friend that works at Geico, and I was shitting on him for that. And he promised that they don't use the user data. And I was like, yeah, right. Why are they collecting it if they're not going to use it?
Yeah. Oh, it's anonymized, but it tells us how much to charge you individually.
Yeah.
So get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. But
yeah, fuck that shit.
Yeah. We're gonna have to figure out some creative things, and this is the amazing thing is like, the market will provide, and it's a powerful powerful tool, but ultimately we have to start creating these networks of people and surrounding yourself with people that actually produce things of value, whether it be food. I think fuel is going to be a crisis in the future. I think energy production is going to be a crisis in the future, and trying to figure out ahead of time, ways to mitigate that, are good practices.
Well, and especially out where we are, solar's obviously complete dog shit for mining, but solar as a way to live your life, like literally off their grid, that's, at least around here where we're in Arizona, the very viable path. Like, it's like sovereignty is, like even out here, like a well and then running your whole house on solar, which is totally doable, not terribly expensive. Yeah, like there's a lot of small steps, I think, that that we can take.
Yeah, no, I've known a bunch of people that have done it pretty successfully. I mean, you definitely have to limit your energy use, especially in the winter, with shorter days, but you can do it pretty reasonably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's an argument to not live in Phoenix, though, is they don't have any groundwater. Tucson, we have a shitload. So that's something you want to take into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. I mean, the good thing, though, is...
That's the thing. Every location has its pluses, like Florida, there's a lot of other types of water that you could probably utilize in other ways,
Yeah.
And we have a lot of sun as well.
I would never want to live in the same state as Ephesians. That's my main thing.
I mean, I think, I think ultimately, like, you can live most places pretty well. You just want to live outside of the cities, the open air prisons. It's my personal opinion. Especially like with
unfortunately, I am. Sorry, I was going to say I'm stuck in a city, but that's all I really want to do. Is my goal is to get out ASAP.
Prison break for hobo. We'll spring you. But yeah,
I've talked to a few people about this, but something I really want to set up, which I think a lot of people will have in the next 3 to 5 years, something like that, is just to have, like, not like I give a fuck about a big mansion or any nonsense like that, but just to like have space to be able to host people and stuff like that, I think would be amazing. That, when all this COVID stuff got up, I'm right now, I'm still in 100, I got my foot on the gas stack at that. So I'm renting 2 bedrooms, for $1,200 a month right now. And, just don't have that space, but it's like in a few years, it might be pretty realistic to be in a position where you could say, hey, Australian Bitcoiners, like, get yourself out of the country, come stay here for free for as long as you need to. We'll figure it out. Like, fuck immigration, fuck all that stuff. Just get over here and then, get away from these camps, and then, we'll figure out our next steps from there. But you at least have a place to land, or, European people or Canadian Bitcoiners or whoever.
Underground Bitcoin railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like anything, crazy complicated, but just like the ability to say, hey, here's a safe spot for you and the family to chill out away from literal modern day Nazis.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I want to have Shane on the podcast, because that's something he's been working on, is creating that decentralized kind of mesh network of people. He calls it the Free Republic of Pasnia. And that's essentially, what they have is it's like a directory of people that offer those types of services. And I think the more of those we have, the better. I think plugging into one is definitely like a central point of failure. But if you have those things, like I'm in this region, I can go to this person, and the network is built on reputation. I think it's a pretty cool experiment for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's ultimately how, like, Ben Stone. Are you familiar with Ben Stone?
No.
Okay. Well, I quote him a lot on the podcast. He's my new Larkin Rose.
Okay.
But he runs Bad Quaker, He wrote Sedition, Subversion, Sabotage. But, you know, one of the things he talks about is like, we're not going to win this with collectivism. You know, we can't match this with collectivism. And, you know, but the good thing is, you know, that there's a ton of people out there doing very similar things to us that have similar thinking. And we just have to create these small cells and interact, you know, freely using market forces and solid principles, you know, ultimately to win. Because, I mean, it was something that really amazed me, getting plugged into a couple of those cells in Tucson over the past year, of just people getting fed up and realizing, you know, and seeing kind of in unison what's happening and realizing they have to do something. They're like, we have to figure out how to source food without relying on the grocery stores, and we have to figure out how to communicate if everything goes down. We need to figure these things, and that's happening all over the place. So, but
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, my vision is like that's gonna come out of the Bitcoin network or Bitcoin meetups.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're gonna build a lot of cool things out of those. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, if somebody, like, you know, is an anarchist Bitcoiner, there's just so much values alignment. It's unbelievable. Like, you know, if I meet somebody, it's one thing if somebody's like, you know, more of like a conservative statist or whatever, but it's like, if you know somebody's an anarchist and a Bitcoiner, and you're like, in one conversation, you can get such a good read on, you know, that person and their values and all that kind of stuff. And like that, I don't know. I just think that values alignment is going to be super important for building out that network more and more.
Yeah, I agree. One of the requirements of the network is sending Joe Rogers, or to join the network, is sending Joe Rogers a PDF of the Anarchist Cookbook. That's how you gain entrance to it. So kind of on that topic, so we shit a little bit on conservatives. I think we should shit on the leftists a little bit more. Or should we stay on shitting on conservatives for a little bit more?
Either's fine with me. I hate both of them.
I have more of a bone to pick with the conservatives recently.
Yeah.
But
I just hate losers. I can't stand being around losers. And it's like, these guys are just such absolute pussies. And they're like, you know, I don't know. It's just like all these people like, can you believe my kid has to wear a mask at school, but the famous people don't? It's like, hey, how about you evaluate your own life? Like, why is your kid being abused? That's the question, not what some fucking famous person is doing. It's like, how about you quit being a fucking loser and keep your kid from being abused? Like, not worry about what Lady Gaga's up to. And it's just, I don't know. Like, that's just, there's just so many examples like that with most conservatives. And it's like, you guys get what you get. You guys are fucking losers. I don't even care anymore.
yeah.
I never did, but definitely don't now.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I think, yeah, if you understand the incentives, Bitcoin will end the state as we know it. It might be different. And it's interesting how Kaysen talks about, you know, the potentials for a state coexisting with Bitcoin, but it's much more like, it's nothing like what it is today. But yeah, all right. Well, I was listening to conservative radio. I wanted to bring this up. I was listening to conservative radio this week, and, you know, so this is the guy's solution, you know, to our problems right now. He says Biden's completely incompetent, so we need to remove him, not have Kamala Harris, not have Nancy Pelosi, but somehow instate Hillary Clinton as the president, which was pretty entertaining to listen to his thought process of why that makes sense. And then, you know, he had a caller call in, and they debated for about 5 minutes about whether Hillary Clinton was hot or not when she was younger. So I was just curious what everybody's thoughts were on Hillary Clinton being hot when she was younger.
Super fuckable at all ages. No, she's gross. She's nasty.
Could you imagine getting in bed with...
Fuck it.
Oh, say that again.
I said, not gonna lie, I would fuck a young Hillary.
Even if she smelled of sulfur?
You know,
What if you?
I'm pretty desensitized to the smell of sulfur. I live in Central Florida, and we have well water, so I'm fairly desensitized to that. I might be into it.
That's the brilliant stuff that you get on conservative radio, and then they also give you financial advice of like, you know, buying gold and silver and bonds and stupid shit. But yeah, have we talked about the state of pensions, Skeeve?
I don't think so. I just put a really important tweet in the nest, though. Al's Lacrosse does think Hillary Clinton is hot currently, and I've posted proof of it right there.
Currently?
But
I don't see it.
no, I just put it in the nest. Anyway, but the pensions. I actually was listening to Sam Tripoli today, and he was talking about cops and like defund the police and all that stuff, and he was making the argument. He's like, you know, basically saying we need to reach out to these cops and let them know there's going to be a job for you on the other side. You know, your pension's taken care of, like all this stuff. And I was listening to him. I'm like, no, that's absolutely not going to be the case. Like, no public pension's going to be okay. They're all completely fucked. Like, the numbers haven't made sense for a couple of decades, and they really, really don't make sense now. And it's, you know, yeah, it's not going to be good. But
Yeah, it's really bad. One of these days I'll pull the numbers up for the Arizona pensions. There's an organization, if you're ever, this is something, I've got some friends that are firefighters, and this is something I did, and they got orange pilled pretty quick after seeing it, seeing the pension numbers with this organization called Truth in Accounting, but they go and audit all the financial statements of every local state jurisdiction in the U.S., and it's pretty astounding. The Arizona pensions are like, some of them are like 30% funded, maybe less.
And that's that's another thing. I just keep thinking about all these different things that I think are just going to impact the real estate market. And so it's like, what do real estate prices look like when, you know, a significant portion of the population who is getting their income from these pensions, like, doesn't have their income? I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's going to be very ugly. And it's like, I don't know what the solution is, because it's like, if that's what fails, there's nothing left to bail that out. Like, there's the federal government's the end of the road. And it's like, once their checks start to actually bounce, you know, figuratively, that's when, I don't know, could have a rough couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think it's so important we get this information out to people, because once they see how much of a sham it is, then the system starts to crumble. Like, that's the exit. Like, and this is why the inflation right now is such a powerful meme for people. It's just amazing that, I mean, a lot of people just like to sit and grumble. So it like, I wonder what it's going to take for people to actually do things. I guess when they can't afford food anymore. I mean, housing's insane. People can't afford housing right now. I don't know how people are living. So
yeah, and I found out recently. So, you know, everybody knows BlackRock bought up a shit ton of residential houses. I didn't realize they, on average, paid 20% over, like the asking price or whatever it was. And so it's like they're literally propping up the housing market. Literally, it's not even trying to hide it. It's, you know, it's fun to watch, because it's like, I shouldn't say it's fun, but it's definitely interesting to watch. You know, this whole process of, you know, having a front row seat to the literal end of the American empire and the cathedral burning. That's Hillary Clinton when she was younger.
I can't get it in focus. Fed Lord sent that to us.
She was kind of hot at one point.
There's a bunch of people I just can't even listen to for 3 minutes, though. That was I ran into that a lot in Portland, is like finding people who is like and honestly, there's like while I was in Portland, it was not as red and certainly not as orange pilled as I am now, but still, even back then, like it's still roughly libertarian or whatever. And I'm like, I literally am physically incapable of talking to this individual. I cannot do it. It's just so much bullshit. And it's like I did, anyway, the place I did a lot of work out there, big giant megacorp, and it was just absolutely, I don't know. There were some good people. I made some good friends there, but most of the people were just completely fucking retarded and insane. Like just row after row after row of cubicles of people that make well into six figures, and like, what do they actually do? Probably nothing. It's like every big company has that.
Yeah. Zorn said, let me know when you're done with this segment. Talking about Hillary. We're done.
Oh.
So yeah, kind of curious for the people in spaces. So one of the things Ben Stone talks a lot about is how civil disobedience is really stupid, and the reason why he says is like if the end goal is to end the state, trying to influence state behavior is kind of a waste of time. So yeah, curious on thoughts.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by civil disobedience. Like, if by civil disobedience you mean protesting, I agree with this guy 100%. Protesting is fake and gay and a waste of time, and there's absolutely no reason for it. If by civil disobedience you mean just breaking the law, like because it's like the thing that you should be doing anyways, that I kind of support. You know what I mean? Like, if it's illegal to gather your own rainwater and you just do it anyways, I support that. If it's illegal to have livestock on your land and you just do it anyways, I support that. So I guess it depends on what you mean by civil disobedience.
Yeah. Thanks, Zorn, for the tip. Zorn says, Merry Christmas, Tucson. Here's a box of ammo. Much appreciated. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, civil
disobedience, it'd probably be the first one, right? Like protesting and making signs and lobbying and nonsense like that.
Yeah, so civil disobedience is actively trying to protest in order to influence the state's behavior. So it's things like, sit-ins or marches or, locking yourself in front of a door, or like walking into the store without a mask on and getting arrested and protest, stuff like that. And that's different than, necessarily breaking the law. Because I think most anarchists don't really give a shit about the law. They give a shit about what's moral and right. At least for them. And so it's, those two things are different. So, I mean, I feel like at this point, if you're following the law, to a T, you're not even capable of, surviving, because it's just so insane. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting point from Ben Stone, because initially my attitude was like, we need to stop these COVID mandates, and at this point, I don't know if we're going to stop them.
Well, we need to be empowered to ignore them,
yes.
Which a lot of us are. It's like a COVID mandate wouldn't affect you and me. Like anyway, I don't know if you say publicly where you work, but like I highly doubt your employer would enforce that one. And then it's like we would just do what we normally do. We would just avoid the places. And so I invited Joe to speak, but he might be giving his Chihuahua a bath or something like that. I don't know.
Damn.
I don't know what people at Chihuahuas do. They're weird.
Somebody else just sent me a massive payment. What the heck? Thank you to whoever that was. I get 2 boxes of ammo now.
Nice.
I could use some ammo.
We should go shoot again.
Yeah, we should.
There's a giant patch of desert out by Tucson's house. We've only done it once, right? Or was it twice?
No, we've just done it once.
just the one so far. Yeah, we need to do that again.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I spent like a whole day shooting, and that's something I like to do. Oh, last tip was for you, Skeeve. So you get a box of ammo too.
Oh, okay.
I'll make sure it gets it. But yeah, it's thanks, Soren. Yeah, no, we need to do that. And that's one of the amazing things about where I live is just like the freedom to be able to do that. And that's something that I always want to do going forward. It's something I've always wanted. And just the ability to walk out in the desert and go shooting. Walk a quarter mile from your house.
My hyper Bitcoinization goal is to have enough land that I can shoot an elk on my land any time of year without caring about what season it is.
Yeah.
Because I have enough land that everybody else is far enough away that it doesn't matter.
That's
so. I don't know what that is for an exact number, but that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean that could be both location and size.
Oh, Al too.
The Texas LARPers are joining us tonight.
I invited Al to speak. He saw that we were questioning his affinity for Hillary Clinton being hot.
I would rather be accused of being into Jeffrey Epstein, I think, than her.
I mean,
she wasn't bad at that age. She wasn't bad, but once you sell your soul to Beelzebub, and shit happens.
I mean, that screenshot I put in the nest, I feel like is pretty compelling. That's a little bit of stuff scratched out, but it says she's hot right below a picture of Hillary Clinton.
So. I don't know if that would be admissible in court.
Yeah. I don't know. We ended this segment. Enough about Satanists. We'll get into it in the conspiracy.
Yeah. Did we have anything else?
Free Republic of Pasnia. Yeah, I'm curious what Joe's thoughts on sedition, subversion, sabotage are.
Yeah.
Did you see that Christmas tree of S9s in the video, the intro video, Skeeve?
No, I was on the Zoom for the video, for the intro, so I didn't see it.
It was pretty incredible. Upstream Data did one with like some sort of gas-powered generator, and the S9 lights, the green and the red, made it light up like a Christmas tree. They just stacked them. It had to be like 150 S9s. It was a lot of them. It was pretty tall.
Oh, wow.
I was impressed. I bet Ephesian could do that at his house. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about leftist Bitcoiners yet.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, similar symptom of the status that we were talking about at the beginning.
Oh, here's one that would piss people off.
Oh, what is it?
Is there any difference between leftist Bitcoiners and conservative Bitcoiners?
I would say not fundamentally. I think it's a difference of degree, but yeah, I would say not fundamentally. I think it's a lot of it's the same status fallacy.
I would say the leftists seem to be a lot more concerned about your attitude when you talk to them than they are about the facts of Bitcoin. Whereas I think someone who would oppose it from a hard right perspective is probably more on like this is terrorist money than Bitcoiners are mean when they talk to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
That's a good point. That's hilarious.
But I mean, it is terrorist money, but so is the U.S. dollar. So
yeah, Democrats are godless beta males.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear more, but I would agree with that.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, Yeah. Go into that more rescale.
They have no love. They have the nature of a woman, and Satan is their daddy.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Hey, I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, like this is something that's like very like I have a kind of a conservative background. I've been all over the place politically growing up. Grew up in Communist Republic of Cook County, Illinois, but so I kind of get the conservative perspective a little bit more, but I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, like statism is a religion. It's the worship of, ultimately the state or a politician. So I would argue that conservatives are very much, in the same boat as the leftists, as being godless. Like I don't think you can worship the state and, worship God at the same time. But that might be controversial.
Yeah.
Like this is
There's definitely a lot of truth.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's definitely a lot of truth to the idea that we've seen this like rise in people relying on and like submitting to the state at the same time that we've seen, like general decrease in people being involved with religion and God, and I say that as a completely non-religious person, but it's what's that? There's a C.S. Lewis quote. I don't know if it's him. I should try to quote Christian writers, but anyway, there's one of them that basically makes the argument that everybody has like a hole in their life and they fill it with something, and a lot of people traded God for the state over the last few decades. It seems like, and not like those are the only two options, but
yeah. I mean, it's just like you walk into a church. I grew up in a church. My dad was a pastor. And, a lot of things that you hear is like, let's pray for our leaders. Like, and then you have, pastors like giving political opinions and, bowing to the, the woke ideology or whatever's driving the news cycle. And I just think that's, statism infecting, religion and statism are hand in hand with each other. And I think ultimately, like, if you're going to a place of worship, you're going there to experience God. But I think a lot of people, lose that and forget and just submit to authority at the end of the day. And it's a big problem. Like, I mean, it just, like, let's mass mandate. I mean, you're going to see churches doing vax mandates.
Yeah, they already are in Canada.
Yeah.
I know some people that are going up for New Year's, and they were going to have a family reunion at the church, and the church had to shut down, whatever. They couldn't let people in that weren't vaccinated. So like half of the family reunion would have had to stay home.
Wow.
Like totally insane.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah, AK-47 says sovereign individual talks about where people traded religion for worship of the government. But yeah.
It does too. Like that whole framework though does also, I think, make someone like Dietrich Bonhoeffer all the more fascinating and amazing. Like he's somebody who, was a Lutheran minister during World War II and like was actively part of assassination attempts on Hitler and like ultimately was executed for it and all this. And it's like, but it's like I don't know, like he did that, seems like primarily as a human, like not as a minister of the Lutheran Church, which largely kind of went along, or they didn't do great opposing Hitler. I think at least that is fair to say.
Yeah, and then if you look at the Catholic Church in contrast at that time, where they were the Nazis were collecting taxes for the Catholic Church and helping them prop it up, and the Pope was very cozy with Hitler. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think this is just the problem is like institutions, and this idea of authority, and this is like my big beef I have with Catholicism. First of all, I don't think the Pope is biblical. And then second of all, I just the whole idea of having an intermediary dictating anything to you is just absolutely mind-boggling and so contradictory to what the Bible, talks about. But yeah, I mean, it's just these institutions are propped up and they're corrupted, ultimately. And I just don't think that that's, the way that things function. Zorn says, I'm pissed my family canceled Christmas this year. Yeah, that's wild. Sorry to hear that, Zorn. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I left my church, this past year because they were doing the whole mask thing and they were hopping on the woke train. But yeah. Bonhoeffer has a book called Ethics, and in part discusses how he made the decision to be a part of a coup to kill Hitler. I'll add that to my reading list. But yeah, I mean, like the perfect example like of this happening is like there's a lot of conservative Christians out there that prop up Trump as like a savior of sorts. And buy into him being a Christian man. And it's like, this guy rode on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. And like, we all know Hillary Clinton did, but, Trump did too. And he's just an awful human being. Like, yeah. But what are your thoughts on this, Fed Lord?
Sorry, I'm frying egg. I wasn't listening. What's the question?
On the state of like Christian churches being status and not.
Oh, I mean, dude. Don't even get me started on like. I think there's all sorts of stuff that's like wrong with mainstream Christian dogma, including like this general like cuckery towards the state. A lot of Christians are like, oh, like you're supposed to pay your taxes and be a good Christian and just kind of keep your head down and wait for the rapture. And I very much disagree with that, both for like theological and practical reasons. And it's not even just like specifically with the state. I mean, I'm kind of the position that like the main organized churches in Christianity are kind of like, for lack of a better word, kind of corrupted by satanic forces. They don't have the best interest of Christianity at heart. So yeah, I'm extremely bearish on kind of the main Christian churches.
Are you familiar with the idea that I don't know, I just read this recently. I don't know how theologically accurate it is or whatever, but this guy, basically he was making the argument that, that story of give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. That it's like the message of that story is Jesus was saying, whose face is on this coin? Like, give it to him. Like, and that the underlying message was to opt out of Caesar's structures, like opt out of these political structures, like that it's been interpreted as paying taxes. And what it originally meant was, he was saying, whose face is on this? Like, why are you funding your own oppression? Why are you, why are you participating in it? Like these people are killing, they're putting you on crosses upside down and lining a road 3 miles long. It's like they're throwing you in lion cages. Like, why are you participating? And it's very, and the guy was obviously making the parallel to today, of us doing very, very similar things and using dollars and paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I don't know. Somebody who's a legit theologian might come along and say that's a really terrible interpretation. But I like the idea.
I mean, I definitely, without getting into specifically the idea of like him referencing like the face on the coin, that is generally my take, like Jesus said, like, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Well, my take is, what actually belongs to Caesar, Caesar being the government, right? Like, what actually belongs to Caesar? Well, fucking nothing. So we don't have to render anything on. Like if the government owns something, yeah, we would, I guess, owe it to them, but they don't legitimately owe anything. So we don't owe them anything at all.
Yeah, I like that side of it too. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my take. And it really pissed off the clergy at the time when he said that too, which was really funny. But yeah. I'm looking up the
Who was
verse right
it?
now.
Somebody tweeted something this week about like basically is now the time when we just kick him out of the temple or whatever. And there's a lot of stories like that of like, I don't know, the interesting, you know, how often Jesus gets painted as this like beta hippie when he, you know, was a carpenter and beat the fuck out of some people.
Mises has a article on this by Jeff Barr. Yeah. Yeah,
Anybody else wants on stage, just raise your hand, and I'll add you.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with AK-47 about this a few weeks ago, and what AK was saying was she has a friend that was talking about like how we need to respect and obey the laws of authorities, and you know, AK was like, what about China? You know, for example, and all the awful things that they were doing there, and her friend was like, yeah, we need to do that, and which is so mind-boggling that's, you know, where some people's heads are right now, because I mean, that's something that like where I think Christianity is at its best is when people are going into, you know, places like that and people are risking their lives to try and have this relationship with God, like what has been actively happening in China. And I have the privilege of knowing people that do that, actively do that, and having been able to financially support them over the years. And I think that's, you know, so counter to, you know, what's happening. But yeah, I think ultimately, like, you know, it comes down to is like, you know, if we're going to love our neighbor, like we're not going to give respect to the state, you know, and follow their edicts necessarily and give them legitimacy. And I think that stands in direct conflict with pursuing a relationship with God personally. But yeah, Zorn says, oh, wow, gotta catch up with the chat. So said they canceled it willingly because they're bought into the Canada stuff. They're conservative Christians. Zorn posted the quote, then Jesus said to them, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. And they were all amazed at him. Yeah. Oh, Skeef, you know what I did this week?
What's that?
I have the ad reads.
Oh, nice.
Do you want to see the video? Should I play that real quick?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
We're very thankful
guys,
for our sponsors
Alex here.
on the show.
Yep. Hey guys, Alex here. All of us want to find that special person, but meeting them is the hardest part. Dirtbags Bar is the best place for you to meet your future ex-wife. Located on the University of Arizona campus, it is the best place to meet single women who are bound to end your relationship with divorce. It is a great venue to hang out and meet people. They have expensive beer, cheap food, and lots of ladies. Just look at how much fun this guy is having. Not only is it a great place to drown your sorrows in alcohol after your divorce and try and find a rebound, but it's also a great place for education. We have tons of 20-somethings that are happy to teach you about critical race theory and social Marxism. After a night at Dirtbags, we guarantee that you'll be able to drive to San Diego and propose on the beach like this. Check out Dirtbags Bar, the best place to meet your future ex-wife. All right, on to the next sponsor of the show, which is the Marty Jones Fan Club.
Have you ever been this crazy about any other entertainer?
No, and that's what's so amazing.
If you're a big fan of Marty Jones like Skeef is, and you want to become a part of the fan club, all you have to do is do a shout out on the next Rabbit Hole recap and state that you want to be a part of the fan club. As of right now, the Marty Jones Fan Club membership list consists of only Skeef, but they are actively looking to grow. And I just want to
True.
give them a big thank you for sponsoring the show tonight. And now for the final sponsor of the show. If your Bitcoin bags are a little bit too big and you want to get rid of it for some shitcoin scam, well, we have a great one in store for you today. Web3 is the next exciting VC-backed pump and dump that you do not want to miss. If BitClout wasn't enough for you, this will surely satisfy your taste for bullshit. Be like Mark Andreessen and ignore people like Jack Dorsey because they just don't want you to have fun staying poor. All right, enough of our sponsors. Let's get back to the show. I could probably do better with that.
That's good. I like. Very, very thankful for all of our sponsors, especially the original one, Dirtbags Bar, Tucson.
Yeah, I'll have to do some more work on that. But I tried to model it after Michael Malice's shitty podcast ads.
I hate those ads.
They're so dumb. It's like, yeah. Ryan Long did a really good. Do you follow Ryan Long at all?
Who's he with? Is he with Dave Smith?
No, he is a comedian. Kind of does his own thing.
No.
He's got an awesome YouTube channel where he does like funny skits. He's got a hilarious podcast, but he did a video discussing the difference between conservative podcast ads and leftist podcast ads, and it was amazing. Oh, AK-47 said the only commercial I've ever enjoyed. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah. Is Web3 even worth talking about?
I think it's just more shitcoiners trying to, I don't know, shine a turd.
I did enjoy it.
That's it.
I did enjoy Jack just shitting on these people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. It's already. I think it's already been shredded on the twatter.
It's unfortunate that. Yeah, and I'm not even gonna go there. That's not even true. Do you have any predictions for 2022? Did we go down that last week?
Well, I subscribe to the Ephesians school of thought on price targets, which is that 800K is a gay bear prediction for February, so about 2 months out. So I think that'll happen. Let's see.
What's your thinking behind that?
That I heard Ephesians say it on Spaces earlier today.
Ephesians, do you even have a Glassnode account, bro?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
Could you put the charts in the nest?
Nah, see, I don't use charts or glass nodes. I sub my balls and I take information from my balls. They tell me things, and my balls have been telling me we're looking at a conservative estimate of 800K by February.
I asked British Hodl for some.
Sounds compelling to me.
I asked British Hodl for some Glassnode screenshots, and he didn't send me any. So,
did he send you about gold?
Did he send me gold?
Did he send you a pamphlet about gold?
Is that his new thing? Man, gold is a shit coin. Yeah. But I lost my train of thought. That's an interesting prediction.
Yeah.
I need to.
What I'm most curious about is when, especially the commercial real estate market starts to fall apart. That's because people are still. Every town each of us live in, drive around, look at all the for lease signs. Like, it's wild. And the price, it's very, very little of it is actually priced as if it's impaired, like it is. And it's like that. I don't know. That's my guess for the first kind of big thing to show that they're losing their power to control, this whole narrative and to control the, the structures underneath it. Because they'll be, I don't know, like it's just, yeah, it just, I mean, for all the reasons we all know, it's totally fucked, and it'll be interesting to see when the pricing reflects that.
Yeah.
So I could see it happening this year, but I could also, I mean, there's just no way to predict timing on those things.
Yeah. I've been pleasantly surprised. This winter has been a lot easier so far than I expected it to be. I thought things were going to be a lot worse. Like we still haven't hit a $4 gallon in Tucson, of gas, which wildly blows my expectation. I thought we were going to hit one in like June or July. People thought I was crazy back then, but I don't know. I feel like the real estate market's going to hang on for a little bit longer, but yeah, it is pretty precarious, like you're saying.
Residential, I think, probably will, but it's just, I mean, it's like they're getting to where they can't hide it in commercial real estate, because it's like everybody sees the signs, everybody knows there's tons of vacancies all over the place, and it's like everybody knows the prices have barely budged from before COVID. And so it's like, what the fuck? What are we doing here? What kind of games are we trying to play?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. It's going to be really, like, I'm amazed that Tucson hasn't fully Detroited yet, and I think it will. And if you look at, like, some of the economic data locally, like Phoenix has recovered, for the most part, because they actually have industry, like they actually produce things. Yeah. And Tucson absolutely doesn't. And there's still a lot of people, relying on transfer payments or government, handouts, to stay afloat. And so when that happens, I mean, things are going to get really hairy.
Yeah.
Evergrande went full default on Christmas in China. Yep. Yeah, Zorn says he could see that make a mess. Totally. I think we talked about that a couple months ago. It's so hard to tell what's going on in China. 300 billion just evaporated. I really like, one of the things I really want to do is buy a plot of land and start building a sustainable house on it. Have you seen land ships?
Yeah, Earthships.
Earthships.
Yeah, I have the book series on how to build those. I've read most of the first one. Yeah, it's at least the tire method where you ram the earth in the tires looks like it's like the best. Like that'll produce a structure that'll last 500 years. But it's really, really labor intensive. Like you gotta put I forget the exact numbers, like 300-400 pounds of dirt in each tire, and you gotta ram it in there with a sledgehammer, and you gotta do that for every tire, and you need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of tires to build a house.
Yeah, the
but they're super badass.
I've looked at rammed earth. Rammed earth is really cool. So you would need like a bulldozer to do that. Because what you essentially do is you sift the sand till it's the dirt until it's super fine. So you have to throw it over like mesh over and over again to get all the little rocks out. So it's just like the finest particles of it, and then you mix it with concrete. And you can put it in like a mold, essentially put some water on it, and then take something and slam it.
And that's what makes your walls and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like concrete. Nice. It's kind of,
Yeah.
It's like, well, it is concrete, but it's more like a natural form. But yeah, no, the ones that I've been looking at that are really interesting is there's these people out in California that do it out in the desert, and they'll like dig a hole and fill sandbags full of sand and just pile them on top of each other and create like these dome-like structures. And you can like interconnect multiple domes of different sizes, and then they cover it with Adobe on the outside, and that looks super interesting.
Badass.
Yeah, it's still incredibly labor intensive, but it's a lot less labor intensive than what you're talking about.
Yeah, that sounds doable.
But
at some point, I want to take like 6 months off work and build something like that, or at least try to.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know. Traveling all over South America wouldn't really do much for me, but I think building something like that would be fun.
No, I think it would be awesome. Up in Page, where you've got 6 cent kilowatt hour.
Exactly.
We'll see how long that's sustainable. Apparently, they're getting a lot of snow up north, so that's a good sign. Maybe Lake Powell won't get shut off.
Yeah. Have a little lake house on Lake Powell funded by miners.
Gosh, that would be so amazing.
6 cent residential.
Yeah. Well, we got some cool things. As far as predictions that I have come in for this next year, I don't really have much other than we're going to do some pretty cool shit with the Arizona Bitcoin network. I'm pretty amazed at what we got rolling into it. But January.
Give us that day for the miner demo that you're doing.
I haven't said it yet.
Okay.
I'm still. I need to find a location to host it because which might get a little bit more complicated than I was hoping to. But once I get that, I'll set it. But yeah, we got Scottsdale meetup January 4th. Stoked about that. Santos on the 18th is going to be doing a Lightning for Everyone presentation that I'm pretty excited about. He's been doing some really cool stuff at Zebedee, and he's working on another project behind the scenes that he'll probably be announcing here pretty soon. That's really cool. But yeah, no, we're going to be doing a presentation at Kaboom Racks sometime, I think in February, which I'm excited about.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, I'm excited about
I bet they would love to grow their local business. I mean, think about how much easier it would be to sell people in person versus shipping it out.
Yeah.
Messing with all that.
I guess like one of the things I forgot to write down, but wanted to talk about, like, I'm curious what Ephesians thinks too, and anybody else, but do you think that large scale mining is going to be sustainable going forward in the future? Like the stuff that Riot's doing.
Let me think. Like in the super long term, probably not, because I think, frankly, it'll probably lose its like monetary premium at a certain point. Like at a certain point, I don't know how long it'll take. It'll be a long time. I'm not worried about the short term, but like in a long term perspective, I think Bitcoin mining will probably be like largely unprofitable, but just people who hold lots of Bitcoin will just be incentivized to do it anyways. You know, if you own fucking a tenth of a percent of the entire world's wealth and you need to mine Bitcoin and lose a little bit of sats every year in order to maintain that, I would argue you're financially incentivized to do it. So I think eventually Bitcoin mining will probably stop being like a profit thing. And then just like lots of people who are personally incentivized to do it will probably do it, is my guess. I mean, I don't fucking know. But what exactly was the question? Oh, do I think centralization? Yeah, no, I think eventually it'll. I don't think that these big corporate mining things are sustainable. No, like for a lot of reasons. Like probably the biggest being I don't trust governments to like not start fucking with them. You know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just it just seems like there's so many points of failure that the large corporate miner is impacted by or influenced by. Like I was looking at some videos of the Windstone operation in Texas that Riot has, and it blew my mind that they would have so many machines in one spot depending on one jurisdiction. Yeah, I know they have a couple facilities, but if that went offline for whatever reason because they're relying on one, I don't know. I think there's a lot. It makes a lot more sense for the plebs to be mining than it does to be going out and creating these large operations. And because, I mean, the power infrastructure, you know, I think we're all watching as we delve faster and faster into a energy crisis, like what's happening in Europe. That's totally possible in the U.S. And the small scale miners so much more mobile.
Yeah, and they're going to be very accessible forms of Bitcoin for the state. I mean, it's a giant fucking warehouse. It doesn't have any of the, like physical security options that Bitcoin itself gives you. I mean, you can secure a multi-sig so that somebody has to risk their life 3 times to, access your Bitcoin. I mean, it's just like the amount of physical security you can do with Bitcoin itself is, is the best we have. And they don't have any of that protections. It's all totally on the books. And so that's what I would be interested to see is when, how they go about that. Is it like a direct tax? Is it, do they just straight up eminent domain it? I think it's going to be interesting. I don't want to be involved in that for sure, but it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it.
Yeah. Zorn said that Bitcoin mining is the only way to regulate free energy devices, fusion and thorium, etc. Energy is about to become free. Yeah, I mean, I think the potential for that to happen is real. I just don't think that people in positions of power are too eager to allow that to happen in the near future. Like, the stuff that's happening with thorium is super promising, but it's something I'm reading Buckminster Fuller's book right now, The Critical Path, and that's one thing he talks about is energy being a currency of the future, which I thought was super interesting. And he kind of alludes to stuff like that, but yeah, I don't know. What stupid shit is Marathon gonna pull next? I think is the question. Don't be like British Huddle. Don't buy mining stocks.
But he's that was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard was him explaining how him owning mining stocks and how he owns and trades mining stocks. He literally said, I mean, yeah, I know I came into Bitcoin in 2020, but my strategy with these, mining stocks is like, it gives me the CAGR of somebody who came in around, say 2016 or so. And it was literally one of the stupidest fucking things I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb. Well, I'm bullish on Bitcoiners for this next year. It seems like a lot of people are really building some cool stuff out. I think we're going to see some cool things come to fruition. I'm pretty excited about what we're doing in Tucson specifically and trying to create a circular economy of sorts. And, they're rolling on that in Phoenix too. I don't know when I get to announce what they're doing up there, but it's pretty exciting. But yeah, I'm stoked. Do you have anything to highlight or shout out, Skeeve?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I do.
The only other event was Blake Masters in February in Scottsdale.
Yeah. That's gonna be.
He is a politician, but it'll be interesting meetup. I'm at least interested to hear what he has to say.
I really hope that he tries to shill his NFT. Did you see that today?
No, I did not. He did an NFT.
Yeah, he put
Gross.
it. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Bearish on Blake Masters. But yeah, I think that's all I got for tonight.
All right.
Well, thank you for everybody joining us in spaces and chat. Thank you, Zorn, for the tips. Much appreciated. Get some boxes of ammo and go shooting. But yeah. All right. Stream's ended. Still in spaces.